something changed in the Heartland writers' room, and nobody saw it coming. During the closed-door table read for Season 19, Episode 10, a moment happened that made the entire cast stop, look up from their scripts, and share the same stunned expression. A single scene, and only a few pages long, triggered reactions so intense that crew members whispered afterward, "This episode is going to change everything." The details from that table read are starting to leak out, revealing twists that could shake the whole Heartland story at its core. Season 19 has been quietly building towards something big. But Episode 10 is where all the hidden threads start to pull tight. Before we talk about what was revealed at the table read, we need to understand why this episode matters more than the ones before it. A table read is a simple thing on the surface, actors sitting around a long table, reading their lines out loud for the first time. But for a show like Heartland, it is where emotions show up raw, before editing, before camera angles, before polish. It is the moment when the cast hears the story at full power all at once, and their reactions often reveal what the audience will feel later. Going into this table read, the writers had already planted several seeds throughout the season. Amy has been facing new challenges with both her horses and her personal life. Pulled between her passion and her responsibilities, Lou has been caught in a storm of public pressure, trying to balance her leadership role with her family's needs. Jack has been carrying a weight that he hasn't fully shared yet, something that seems to follow him into every scene this season. And Tim, as always, has been fighting battles on more than one front, some out in the open. In others, he keeps locked inside. But what made Episode 10 different was the secrecy. Usually, cast members receive early hints or drafts. This time, pages were withheld until the last minute. Some scenes arrived with redacted lines. Even the assistant who handed out the script said she had never seen the writers so protective. Everyone walked into that room knowing something important was hidden inside those pages as they took their seats. There was a tension in the air, not the stressful kind, but the quiet pressure that builds before a major reveal. You could feel it in the way the pages rustled, the way the actors leaned forward, ready for whatever surprise the writers had prepared. And when the reading began, it didn't take long for the room to realize that Episode 10 was not written as just the moment Episode 10's script hit the table. The tone in the room shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet to quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens when something on the page catches everyone off guard. At first, the actors read as they always do, steady and focused. But halfway through the episode, a single line dropped like a stone in water, sending a ripple through the entire room. Pens stopped moving. Someone let out a short breath, and for a few seconds, even the air felt heavier. This was the moment people would later whisper about, the moment where the story suddenly tilted in a new direction. The first shock, centered on a major character facing a choice so personal and unexpected that it left several cast members leaning back in their chairs. It wasn't a dramatic explosion or a wild twist. It was something quieter, something that cuts deeper because it feels real. A decision that could shift the relationships inside Heartland Ranch forever. And the way the scene was written, soft, emotional, and painfully honest, made it clear the writers were taking the season into territory the show doesn't often explore. But that wasn't the only surprise. Amy's storyline suddenly took a direction no one expected. In the script, she receives news connected to her horsework that could change not only her career, but her day-to-day life at Heartland. During the reading, you could see the actors look up with that silent question in their eyes, are we really going there? Amy's scene wasn't dramatic on the surface, but it carried the weight of a coming storm. A few of the cast members even reread their lines before speaking them, trying to feel the emotional shift layered into the dialogue. Lou's scenes brought their own tension. Her leadership role collides with a situation back at the ranch, forcing her to confront something she thought she had already solved. The script made it clear that her public world and private world are about to clash, and not in a small way. When the actor reading Lou's lines reached the turning point in her scene, the room reacted with a strange mix of surprise and concern, even though it was just paper and ink. The moment felt real. Then came the tension inside the ranch itself. A disagreement, one powerful enough to spark a temporary rift between characters who rarely let anything shake them. The lines weren't angry, but filled with hurt, frustration, and years of unspoken emotion. And the cast's reaction to this scene was the strongest of all. There were long pauses, repeated reads, and a few subtle nods that said everything. This wasn't just another episode. It was the episode where walls crack and truths finally rise to the surface. By the time the table read ended, everyone knew the truth. Episode 10 wasn't just a midpoint. It was the spark that would ignite the rest of the season. Another chapter. It was written as a turning point. The moment episode 10's table read ended, there was this strange, shared understanding moving through the room, like everyone realized at the same time that the season they thought they were making had just shifted beneath their feet. You could almost see the ripple effect traveling from actor to actor as they closed their scripts. What episode 10 revealed was not just a plot twist. It was a turning point powerful enough to reshape everything that came before it, and everything that will follow. One of the biggest changes comes from the emotional stakes suddenly rising much higher than anyone expected. The earlier episodes of Season 19 were filled with slow-building tension, small hints, quiet moments, subtle clues. But Episode 10 takes all of that gentle pressure and suddenly tightens it. The events in this episode don't end when the scenes fade out. They echo forward, pushing every character into a new emotional space that they can't easily step back from. This isn't the kind of chapter you simply move past. It follows them. It stays with them. And it forces them to look at each other differently than before. And then there's the shift in the season's direction. Episode 10 acts like a door, opening toward the final stretch of the season, revealing a path that feels much more uncertain and much more personal than viewers might expect. The storyline introduced here lays the foundation for the last remaining episodes. It's almost like the writers lined up a series of dominoes, and Episode 10 is the moment someone finally touches the first one. Everything that comes after depends on what happens in this episode. And what happens is big. Not loud, not sensational, but deeply, quietly life-changing. This episode also hints at something even bigger, a possible setup for the next season. There are lines buried in the dialogue. Small details that don't seem important at first, but suddenly feel loaded once the table read ends. The kind of details writers only include when they're building a long-term arc. Cast members exchanged looks during certain scenes. And those looks said more than any spoiler ever could. They could see the bigger picture forming. Behind the script, but maybe the strongest impact, lies in the relationships at Heartland Ranch. Events of Episode 10 reshape the way these characters connect with each other. Bonds are tested, trust is bent, and for a few moments in the script, even the strongest relationships feel fragile. After years of standing together through everything, the characters suddenly find themselves facing choices that might divide them, not because they want to, but because the story is finally pushing them to confront what they've avoided for too long. By the time you reach the last page of this episode, one thing becomes clear. Nothing returns to normal after Episode 10. Not for the characters, not for the ranch, and definitely not for the season. The moment whispers from the Episode 10 table read leaked online, the Heartland fandom lit up like a storm. It didn't matter if the details were small, vague, or half-hidden. Fans only needed the slightest spark to start building theories faster than the writers could type the next script page. And what makes this moment different from past seasons is the tone of the fan reaction. It isn't just excitement or curiosity. It's a deeper, more intense energy. Like everyone can sense that Season 19 is heading toward a point of no return. On social media, the first wave of reactions focused on Amy. The idea that Episode 10 might force her into a choice that could reshape her entire future hit fans hard. Some believe the writers are preparing her for a new chapter that will echo the emotional journeys from earlier seasons. Others think the twist could tie back to the show's long-standing themes of healing, family, and growth, but with a new, heavier layer. Posts and comments kept repeating the same idea: if Amy changes direction, the entire story changes with her. Lou's scenes sparked their own set of theories. Fans began connecting earlier episodes, trying to spot clues they may have missed. Some argued that her storyline is heading toward a major clash between her personal responsibilities and her public role, while others fear episode 10 may push her into a moment where one wrong decision affects not just her, but everyone at Heartland. The idea that Lou's world might collide with the ranch in a dramatic way had viewers debating late into the night. But the mystery that caused the biggest wave of speculation was the hinted rift inside the ranch. Fans started digging through past seasons, pointing to unresolved conversations, emotional scenes, and old wounds that never fully closed. Many believe episode 10 finally opens those wounds again. And because Heartland has always been a show built on loyalty, family, and sticking together, the idea of a deep fracture inside the ranch hit fans harder than any villain or disaster ever could. Some fans even think episode 10 might be setting up a character exit or a character return. Theories range from surprising reunions to painful goodbyes. A few viewers suggested that the quiet tone of the script read reactions hints at a moment that's less explosive, but more emotionally devastating. The kind of twist that doesn't shock through action, but through heartbreak. And then there are the bold predictions. That episode 10 isn't just a turning point for the season, but a setup for a brand new era of Heartland. A shift toward deeper stories, more challenging choices, and a level of emotional complexity the show hasn't explored in years. What fans agree on, however, is simple. Something big is coming. Something that will leave viewers talking long after the credits roll. When episode 10 finished at the table read, there was a pause in the room, a long, heavy pause that didn't feel like acting or performance. It felt real. Like everyone was seeing a new version of the show forming right in front of them. That's when it became clear. Episode 10 is more than a twist. It's a message from the writers, a signal that Heartland is stepping into a new stage of its story, one that's deeper, riskier, and more emotionally honest than anything in the recent seasons. One thing this episode makes obvious is that the season is no longer moving in straight lines. The safe paths the characters usually take suddenly look narrower. The choices they make now feel heavier, and every action seems tied to something larger, waiting in the background. The writers aren't holding back. They're building a final stretch of episodes designed to push long-standing characters into moments they've never faced before. This is the kind of storytelling shift that defines the rest of a season, and sometimes the next one too. Episode 10 also suggests a shift in tone. Not darker, but more grounded, more human. Heartland has always been built on warmth, hope, and healing. But this time, the healing won't come easy. The characters may have to break a little before they can rebuild. The emotional honesty in this script shows the writers' confidence. They believe the audience is ready for deeper, more complicated stories. They're not afraid to let characters struggle in new ways. And then there's the future of the ranch itself. Small hints woven through the episode show that Heartland Ranch is on the edge of real change, possibly physical. It's possibly emotional, possibly both. The table read reactions showed the cast understood this. Whatever happens next will not simply be another problem to solve and move past. It will be something that reshapes the place that has been the heart of the show since day one. Some even think the episode quietly plants seeds for a future season, not with big cliffhangers, but with subtle shifts, new tensions, new questions, and new directions the story could grow into. Viewers might not notice it right away, but once the season wraps, episode 10 may be the moment everyone looks back on and says, that's where it changed. And that's the real power of this episode. It doesn't just push the season forward, it pushes the entire world of Heartland into new emotional territory. The characters you love are about to face challenges that will test their bonds and force them to decide who they want to be in the chapters ahead. By the end of episode 10, the future of Heartland feels more open, more uncertain, and more exciting than it has in years. What happened during the episode? 10 table read didn't just change the script, it changed the energy behind the camera. Whispered conversations continued long after the reading ended. Not in a nervous way, but in that rare, electric way that happens when a cast realizes the story is about to challenge them more deeply than usual. Even crew members who had only heard pieces of the script seemed affected. There was this quiet understanding spreading through the set. The second half of the season would demand more emotion and more intensity from everyone involved. One of the biggest shifts came from the cast's reaction to the emotional weight of their scenes. Some actors remained seated with the script still open in their hands, studying lines that hit closer to home than expected. Others stepped away from the table, pacing slowly, processing what their characters would soon face. It wasn't dramatic or showy. It was subtle small signs that the story had reached a point where acting would require real vulnerability. These weren't just lines on a page anymore. They were moments that would shape character arcs in ways the actors hadn't seen coming. Directors and producers exchanged looks too, the kind of looks that carry both excitement and pressure. Episode 10 doesn't simply push the story forward. It demands a level of direction and performance that must feel raw, grounded, and deeply human. The team behind the camera began discussing scene approaches, lighting moods, emotional beats, and even shooting styles that could support the shift in tone. This episode isn't just a script. It's a challenge, one the crew knows they have to rise to. For the writers, Episode 10 was their moment of creative risk. They've built a turning point that tests every character differently. Behind the scenes, they spoke about how this episode wasn't designed to show, it was designed to reveal. Reveal hidden feelings. Reveal long-suppressed truths. Reveal the consequences of choices left unresolved. They understood that once Episode 10 aired, there would be no turning back. The story would move into more complex territory, and they were ready for it. Even the mood around the ranch set changed. Some locations suddenly carried new meaning because of the scenes written for them. Places that once felt warm and safe would now hold tension, and others would become symbols of healing or conflict. The team began scouting areas differently, thinking about how to visually match the emotional shift introduced by the script by the end of the day. One thing was crystal clear to everyone who worked on Heartland. Episode 10 wasn't just another step in the season, it was the line in the sand. And crossing that line would leave a mark on the show, the cast, and the audience. As the dust settled after the Episode 10 table read, something unusual lingered in the room, a feeling that Heartland had stepped into a new chapter without waiting for the cameras to roll. It wasn't spoken out loud, but everyone could feel it. A sense that the story had crossed an invisible line, and now the entire season was leaning in a new direction. Episode 10 didn't just deepen the story. It reshaped the emotional map of Heartland, leaving both the cast and the audience standing at the edge of something bigger than they expected. What makes this final shift so powerful is how quietly it arrives. There is no explosion, no dramatic chaos. Instead, it comes through small lines, careful pauses, and truths finally spoken after seasons of silence. This gentle but undeniable change is what gives Episode 10 its force. It moves through every relationship in the show, touching each character in a way that feels honest and earned. And that is why the episode stands out. It transforms the entire season through emotion. It's not spectacle. One of the deepest impacts lies in the future these characters must now face. The choices made in Episode 10 will echo through the next episodes and beyond. Some paths that once seemed clear now twist in new directions. Characters who have always relied on each other will have to rebuild trust. And the ranchuos, the anchor of the show, may no longer be the safe, unchanging place it has been for so many years. It's still home, but home might look different after this. And then there's the audience. Fans who have followed Heartland for a long time will feel the weight of this shift instantly. They will sense the emotion building beneath the surface, even in scenes that feel quiet or calm. They'll recognize that the writers are preparing them for moments that may challenge their expectations, perhaps even break their hearts before offering healing again. This is the kind of storytelling that stays with viewers long after the episode ends. For the cast and crew, Episode 10 marks a point where the work becomes more personal. They now carry the story's emotional load into filming with a new level of seriousness. Every scene, every expression, every line will feel influenced by the turning point introduced at the table read. It's rare for a single episode to change the tone of an entire production, but Episode 10 managed to do exactly that. As the script pages were finally closed and the room emptied, only one truth remained. Episode 10 is the heartbeat of Season 19. It is the moment where everything shifts. The moment that will define the rest of the season and echo into whatever comes next. Heartland is moving into deeper waters, and episode 10 is the wave that pushes it forward.